And I'm really pleased this afternoon to welcome to one of Dr. Mark's Tea Time Chats, an old friend, Dr. J, or Jeremy Noad. And I'd just like to welcome Dr. J. He's a key social influencer on all things B2B sales. And what we're going to talk about in the next few minutes is I'm really going to pick Jeremy's brains on a lot of the stuff that he shares, get his view really on Jeremy, I'm really intrigued, and I don't want to talk about and get hung up on sort of, oh, we're all in COVID and how we're going to, what are we going to do? I'd like to think about, getting back to a semblance of business as usual. However, from your perspective, from a sales perspective, how are you going to deal with that? Are all the customers still going to be the same from when we went into this pandemic?
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. So firstly, thanks, Mark, for the opportunity. I think it's interesting, and some of it's about linguistics, because people talk about back to normal or back to how it was, or it isn't.
Yeah.
We've gone through a dramatic change cycle. And if you're a corporate organization, pushing your people through this level of change before the pandemic was impossible. It just wouldn't happen. But we've shown to a degree resilience. We've shown to a degree how we can change. And then you sort of get these mixed messages sort of drifting out, and depending on your possible political perspective, which ones you favor, whether we're all going back to the office or these hybrids, going for 2-3 days and work from home from the rest of the time. And if you think about it, for sales, generally didn't work in the office anyway. The job, predominantly around sales, the job is to go out and meet the customers at their preferred location, which is the biggest change I think we're going to see. I think the hybrid working is going to be a way, and not just for this year, but also next year, the year after, and more. And you couple that with, some of the background to that is we're also seeing this sort of pressures around 35-hour weeks, 4-day weeks, and things like that. And organizations are just going to be sort of focusing on getting a hybrid model, which sort of recognizes that some roles need to be office-based, but an awful lot of roles don't. And if we're going to bring people back to the office, we're going to bring it in for the things that we benefit from the office, which is about innovation, it's about collaboration, working together, sparking and solving problems together. In any of the speeches from CEOs and everything else like that, it's talked about these hybrid models. Nobody's ever said we're going to come back to the office to do vendor meetings. Nobody. It's not mentioned at all. Nobody's ever going to say, okay, so if I've got 2-3 days back in the office, I'm going to be working on our projects. I'm going to be working with my team. I'm not going to give up that time for vendor meetings. I'm still going to take them at home. So for all these things about the salesperson going along and saying, we're going to be back in the office, we're going to be going out there and doing this, that, and the other, we're going to go and see these customers. These customers aren't going to be super keen on seeing them because they've only got a finite amount of time, less time than before, and they're not going to devote it onto the sales activity. So I'm still seeing that the sales activity, irrespective of whether the salesperson gets pulled into the office or works at home, is going to remain virtual. And I think quite a long way down the line in terms of a sales cycle, a buyer journey, it's going to be virtual because we've become accustomed to that. It's a lot easier for me as the potential customer to jump on a Zoom call, have the conversation, and then get on with something else. If I invite you to my office to sort of talk about your solution, your software, your services, then I've got to book rooms most likely. I've got to get you signed in at reception. I've got to gather 2 or 3 people and make sure, and if I'm only working 3 days and they're only working 3 days, what's the level of overlap? And so these challenges are going to face us. And I think the the misconception is that it's going to go back to normal and we're still going to be going out there as we did. And I think we're going to be going out there less. I mean, it depends on the products and services, but still, if you're going and visiting a manufacturing site and looking at process improvements, that's still going to be limited, because I think the stage gates and the gatekeepers will be not wanting to interfere. You know, we've had enough interferences on running our businesses over the pandemic. We don't need any more interference. So until we reach a certain point in the sales process, the buying journey, we're not going to get into that face-to-face mode. And I think that's going to be critical. So we're still going to double down on, I think across the globe, as sales professionals, I think they did a fantastic job of adapting. And, when I sort of sit looking at global businesses, you can see the wave pattern moving backwards and forwards across the globe. And so some people are coming out, some people are going back in, and that side of it. And you see that actually, when they come out, they don't all jump in their cars or jump on the aeroplanes and start running around, because everybody's a little bit more wise about how to best use their time.
Yeah. And do you think then, Jeremy, that that we have still had that interaction during the whole period? It's just shifted to a different communication medium.
Yeah.
But is there now the opportunity to a certain extent, as things start to move into that next phase? And I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be anything close to business as normal. I think we're into a completely new paradigm in terms of how we start to do business more effectively together. Is there an opportunity now, as if I'm a salesperson, be an account manager, client director, whatever, to sort of reflect back on those relationships, to say, okay, 2 years ago, these were the my potential bankers, my potential winners. Are they still my potential bankers and winners?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the three dynamics I think are changing, and I'm seeing changes.
Yeah.
You may have been big on supplying the hospitality sector.
Yeah.
You've had a lousy 18 months, and I think it's a really good example from both sides, both on a sales side and the buy side. You've had a lousy 18 months around this. Legislation changes or is unclear, or it generally throws up more challenges than we ever expect, and we sort of invest our money in preparing, and then somebody changes their mind. All those things. And I think from a sales to a customer view, that's changed, because we've seen the fragility of what we thought was a rock bottom, continually growing thing. People are, the leisure dollar goes up each year in terms of spend, apart from last year. So you could almost say that's the banker, but it's not the banker. And you recognize that if you have all your eggs in that one basket, you're going to struggle. And I think that brings on to one of the main things I'm finding and I'm thinking about is buyers are becoming more risk averse. Yeah, they really are. And what they're looking at in terms of however you were positioned in their sort of matrix of whether you're a quality vendor, a partner, and all that sort of good stuff. But what did you do to make their best use happen during the pandemic? Did you sort of help them ensure that they had the right supplies? Did you stay open to ensure that they can carry on being open if they choose? Did you show understanding about their economic situation, not risking your business, but that? And they're now looking and saying, actually, those are the kind of people we want to partner with, not necessarily the cheapest, not necessarily the most shiny, but who's going to make it. And so everybody's now thinking more about business continuity. So we're not looking for people to come in and tell us that your boat's leaking, you need to fix it anymore. I'll decide that my boat's leaking. You give me the options of how you think you could fix it for me. It's that sort of movement to it. And the other big thing I'm finding where I think there is an opportunity is that buyers are becoming more risk averse. They've seen the fragility in some of their supply chains. And if you've been a good supplier, or you can prove that you've been a good supplier to others, then there's two things most likely to happen to give us openings in sales. One is people are going to be looking at this type of, are you fulfilling the basics? It used to be table stakes, but that's not, It's back to being sort of a differentiator at the moment.
Yeah,
And if you are doing that and you're not causing me any problems, and you've supported my business in whatever way, even if it's just through empathy, then I'm probably more inclined to sign a longer contract with you next time round. I'm probably more like to seek your opinion on where we can spend. We've got this other problem. Can you help us with that? So the sort of cross-sell, upsell, evolving the relationship, having longer contractual relationships are the trends that are coming in terms of the buy-sell side, on top of the behavioural side about whether they're actually in an office or not.
Yeah, brilliant. There's some fantastic insight there, Dr. J, as I would have expected from a really nice tea time chat. So if I'm a salesman, from what you're saying, be prepared that it's not the same. We are not entering back into business as usual. Yeah. You really need to reflect on your customers and your customer base. Good customers are less risk averse as a result of what they've been through. And they've been looking to their supply base for those suppliers that have stood by them, that have helped them to mitigate that risk of the ups and downs that the pandemic threw at them. And they're actually looking for that stability and consistency and longevity in their relationships, not the shiny or the new. They're looking for a little bit more solidity and a little bit more certainty going forward. Yeah.
It's become certainty and fulfilling your promises.
Yeah.
Has become a value driver now instead of a table stake. I think that's one of the biggest changes. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Or everybody expected you to do it. The fragility of certain things has shown that's not a good expectation. Therefore, a proven track record in literally doing what you promised to do actually makes a difference now.
See, so I knew that bringing you onto the tea time chat and flipping it over so that we would get some insights from a key social influencer on all things B2B sales would pay off. So thank you, Dr. J. Great to see you again, and look forward to reading your latest that are out there on a regular basis.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate the opportunity.
Hey, go well.